It's Labour weekend, always a joy. We've survived winter and summer's on its way. A new Labour weekend was to celebrate the 8-hour working day. However, I didn't realise until I checked Mr. Google that it was celebrated first in 1890, which seems quite some time ago. The Labour Day Act was passed in 1899, making it a statutory holiday. In fact, in the 1890s, they had Labour Day parades. In the years of the 2020s, we just have a parade down State Highway 1, exiting Auckland. The words of the prophet Joel speak to the promise of good weather and bountiful harvest after the years of destruction from the plague. We have had a destructive winter due to lots of rain, and there is a worldwide food shortage, being hindered by weather and the war in Ukraine. We hope and pray for a bountiful harvest with settled weather this coming summer, and perhaps less expensive fruit and vegetables. Today we have another parable from Luke. This time we have a Pharisee and a tax collector. Pharisees held a liberal interpretation of Scripture, and the aim of Pharisaic law was to make observance of Torah available to all. The tax collector, on the other hand, they were seen as collaborators with the hated Romans, and they were considered venial, unscrupulous and dishonest. They were outsiders. This parable continues the theme of prayer, as is addressed to everyone who may be listening, not just the disciples. On the other hand, it is a straightforward and bracing story about the dangers of spiritual pride and the benefits of confession. In the time that this parable was written, the Pharisees' presentation in the temple by standing up and looking to heaven is normal. However, his prayer, including vices of which he abstains, and then the pious practices of which he engages, are excessive. The law required for one to fast only on the Day of Atonement, so his fasting twice a week was extreme and not necessary. Although in the ancient Middle East, the pious Pharisees were in the habit of fasting on a Monday and Thursday. The Pharisee also went beyond law's requirement in tithing. The law prescribed that only certain crops be tithed, but the Pharisees tithed even their garden herbs. What this Pharisee said about himself was true, but the spirit of his prayer was wrong. The Pharisee illustrates the attitude of those who can only boost their own self-image by putting others down. Prayer is about keeping God informed and everyone nearby about how successful he is being compared to the shortcomings of others. Not a particularly Anglican approach to prayer. The tax collector was not a popular member of society in the ancient first century world, but his presentation was humble, looking down, beating his chest. He is sorrowful and has a sense of unworthiness. His prayer is simple: God, be merciful to me, a sinner. He can only throw himself on God's mercy. He asked for God's mercy because mercy was the only thing he dared ask for. Wonder why the tax collector was asking for God's mercy? Was it because of his occupation? An occupation with a family to support and no other possibility of employment. He cannot abandon being a tax collector. The parable concludes with, I tell you, this man went down to his home justified, rather than the other. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, but all who humble themselves will be exalted. The parable illustrates Luke's theme of reversal. God will one day move to align the human situation with the nature of God, as God truly is. The task of Jesus is to summon human beings to align themselves with the new perspective, so that when the reversal comes, they will be in the right position to benefit from it. Last week, we had our first death in Home Ground. And those visitors who don't know what Home Ground is, it's the big building next door where the City Mission is now situated. This man was 59, not old by our standards, but he had been living rough for most of the last 30 years. His health was compromised. He was one of our first residents in Home Ground, and he was challenging. He broke his leg a few months back, and he would not stay in hospital because he didn't like being told what to do. So he left hospital, self-discharged, and part of my team, I have an outreach nurse, and she spent hours of every day with this man, organising home help. A physio would come and often give treatment out in Federal Street or down at Sky City rather than at home. But over the few weeks before his death, he was starting to enjoy being indoors. He was a lot less difficult, and he was not so grumpy. He passed away in his own body, which was wonderful. Passing away on the street is not. He passed with dignity, and there was someone with him until he was taken from Home Ground. He left Home Ground, staff and residents farewelled him with a haka and a waiata. It was very moving. On Thursday last week, we held his tangi here in St Matthew's. The church was full, which was wonderful to see. It was full of street whānau and staff. Some of them I had not seen for many years. His sister came from Brisbane, a brother from Wellington. Stories of street life were shared, new connections and reconnections were made. Some streeties had even gone to school with his other siblings. Aotearoa is a very small world. Our wahine from the Māori caucus performed a karanga to accompany him in and out of the church, and an amazing haka was performed by the street whānau and tatui Atawhai staff. While not a parable, this is a story of reversal. Home Ground is a place of reversal, transformation for our street whānau. Amen.